Welcome to The Chase, a limited series on the Shallow End podcast feed that focuses on successful chases of a card, set, or player run. I'm Dave Schwartz. Thank you for listening. In this episode, you'll hear from Dalton. On Instagram, he's RefractorGuy812, and he's going to tell us all about the challenges of collecting an entire team run of a rare parallel from a set made more than a quarter century ago. If you think it's as challenging as it sounds, you're right. Buckle up, because you're about to get a lesson in persistence, patience, and a little luck. Happy now to welcome in Dalton, who is Refractor Guy 812 on Instagram. Dalton, thank you so much for being here. And what chase are we talking about tonight?
So tonight we're covering my 1999 Finest Gold Yankee team set run, which I've decided to go to PSA 9 and above, so I have a few cards left, but I'm down to like 2 or 3 left. But yeah, that's the set we're talking about right now. So
Fantastic. So before we get into the chase itself, tell us a little bit about this set and about this parallel. If somebody was not familiar with it, kind of what does it look like, and is it numbered, and what else might people need to know about it?
okay, so for 1999 Finest, what originally drew me to this set is there's only 3 parallels for that year specifically. It's the base, the refractor, and then the gold, which is the only numbered parallel. There may be one of ones I've never actually checked, but it's to my knowledge there's not. So over I would say the last 3 years, I've been chasing each player from the Yankee team set, which I guess because of the World Series relevance of the time is actually huge. I'm at 15 cards right now, and I still have one left to buy. So there's, I believe, 16 or 17. Might even be 18. I can't. I'm trying to put it all together in my head, and I can't at the moment. But
Sure. And those teams of the Yankees, they're legendary. So you're not chasing after people who, had a few at bats here and there and then kind of drifted off into the anonymity of retirement. You're talking about some Hall of Famers there.
oh yeah. So that's part of the main draw, I guess, for me. I'm a '90s kid. I grew up with a lot of these guys in the later years. I can't say I remember much of the real run of the dynasty, but a lot of the Yankees' staying power, stayed through the 2000s, especially the core four, or as the real, a lot of diehard Yankee fans refer to, the Fab Five or whatever you'd like to call them, with Bernie included. But all of those guys, stayed around for, I believe, 10, 12, 15, 16 years. So we got to know them all really well. And that all of those guys are a huge part of what I collect. So that's definitely what my collection is geared around these days.
Fantastic. And to be only just one away is something special, because let's set the table a little bit for the listeners here about what we're talking about. So Topps Chrome Gold Refractors or Retrofractors didn't pop up until 2001. So this predates that by 2 years. So we're talking about a quarter century old gold refractor set of a premium Topps brand of the most popular baseball team of that era. So this is no easy feat. How did you decide that you wanted to go after the entire team set of the Yankees from '99?
Honestly, I can say I believe I fell into the '99 Finest Gold just kind of by happenstance. I was looking back, and I believe my first purchase of one was a David Cohn from around 2021 or so. Um, and whenever I was thinking back about that, I do have to give a shout out to Danny, Modest Card Collection, I
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
this is at. Danny is, a huge asset to me when it comes to the Yankee sets of those years. He's someone I use for knowledge resources and other things. But whenever I found his account, which is around the same time, he had done started a couple of really cool sets, and I guess at the time I didn't want to follow in his footsteps, so I picked something else. So I got the 99 finest golds going, um, and like I said, it's 3 or so years into it, I guess almost four now, and it's been quite the run. I have had opportunities to purchase the last Jeter that I need multiple times. I've just waited because I'm honestly probably going to buy a PSA 10, and it's somewhat pricey, so I just have put it on the back burner. But they're out there, so it'll be a good one to wrap up soon, hopefully.
What is the one you have picked up most recently?
I was gonna say the most recent. So Jeter actually has three cards from the set, which is kind of hilarious because if anybody collects '90s, they know that Jeter's, pretty expensive. So the base card is card 90, which I own in a PSA 10, but the most recent is card 115, which is called the Gems, PSA 9. Jeter was my most recent pickup, which I believe I got that one from Cava Cards, CAVA Cards on Instagram.
Yeah.
Seems like a really good guy. Took pretty good price and everything, so it was nice to knock another one down. But
So what have been so going on 3+ years now? You started in 21 with the David Cohn. You've got one of the Jeters left to get, and you're just trying to get into position to get the PSA 10. What are some of the challenges that you have faced in trying to put together a PSA 9 or higher collection of a set that is just so historic, like this 99 Gold Finest?
I would so which something that if I guess in the thumbnail we'll have a picture of the card so people are more familiar with this when I speak about it. But these have perforated edges, and from what I can tell, they're also they had peels, which I'm a no peel guy. I peel all of mine, but I guess the manufacturing process of those two things happening make them come apart a lot. There's a lot of splitting, is what I would call it on them.
Mhm.
So that's been my real biggest challenge with them. I think I have, I don't know, probably three or four here in my room with me that graded really low or won't grade at all because of that. From that happening, that I've just happened to purchase on eBay and either not looked at the pictures very good or just took a shot in the dark. Um, and but I will say I have gotten fairly lucky over the time purchasing them raw, from various places, whether that be Facebook or eBay or people I found. Um, you asked what the toughest challenges were, which is something that you and I discussed coming into this. Mariano is a huge part of my collection, which people that look into me will see very quickly. Um, and generally, when I build these team sets, he's one of my first focuses, because he is probably my favorite player of all time, or however you would like to put that. And finding his for this set specifically was extremely difficult. I think the nice little poke is after I finally located mine. The one finally sold on eBay and a PSA 10 a little after, but up until that point, I don't think there was a public sale for like almost 4 years.
Jeez.
So it was not easy to find one, and still really they're not very around. So
Yeah, that's tough. So to make things even harder, for the one not even pop up for 4 years, at some point you just got to be thinking to yourself, does this card even exist? Is it going to pop up? And if so, how fast am I going to have to move on it?
yeah, so and that was something, and maybe people that are really familiar with me, Facebook groups and stuff like that. I spent the better part of 2 or 3 years, what I would call, beating the trail of posting, every couple months on a group, and hey, I'm looking for this card with the last picture I had of one that had sold, and just hoping. And that's one of my favorite parts about this hobby is the way people are usually willing to help you as long as you put it out there. And eventually, I was led to a guy that is very, I would call private, that has a monster Mariano Rivera collection. Actually puts mine kind of to shame, which if you look at mine, that's kind of that's really saying something. But the guy built the collection way before COVID entered the, equation, and has not a lot of money in a lot of them. So he doesn't want to move on from them because of that, because he is aware of what he would have to spend to replace. So yeah, I eventually found the guy. We talked for, I want to say, 4 or 5 days, basically trying to give him my legitimacy of being a collector and not a flipper,
Mhm.
and letting him know it would be going to a good home, which it has. It's, still been sitting in my I believe it finished this up, 9, 10 months ago or so now, and but he did end up selling one of his 5 copies to me, which was hilarious to me that it was that hard to get off one of them. But he was just a really great guy, and I actually enjoyed the sentiment of how hard it was to get it away from him, because I'm kind of that way with some of my cards, so I understand where he was coming from entirely.
Absolutely, and please don't share his name because we want to respect his anonymity. But he is somebody who is off social. He's sort of offline and just collects away from the spotlight.
Um, so I discovered him through a Facebook group. But when I looked back through his posts, his most recent post was like 22 or something like that, and his
Okay.
majority of his posts were way before 2020. So I think he was just doing a lot of his heavy lifting per se, pre 2020. So since then he's been kind of, I don't even know if he ever even gave me his real name. I think there was even something like that going on. But yeah, he definitely had a what I would call a monster collection. That I know, not to get sidetracked, but I own a couple of the Star Rubies Moes, and I mostly have all of them pinned down that are public out there, and I think he has a handful that he has more than I'm aware of than anyone else has. So it is pretty funny, but
But what a fun story though when you could go back and look at that Mo, right? Where there's one side of this collecting equation where it's like, hey, where'd you find it? Off eBay. It popped up, and then I won the auction, right? Versus you tracked it down over a matter of time, and you found this person who's a bit of a hobby recluse and hasn't posted in 3 years, but he's got all these cards. He's I don't want to say hoarding them, but he's got multiples of them, and you have to talk to him. And finally, over a number of days, you convince him to give you the card. That's a much better story and a much better memory than I found it on eBay.
oh yeah, yeah, and like I said earlier, I do want to reiterate that I entirely understand where he was coming from,
Mhm.
especially because all of this happened, and then not too long after the recent rise in the '90s prices. It's confirming what a few of us had thought for a while, that this could be a market that gets targeted down the road, and if you have some of the bigger stuff now, it's almost better to not really be that public about it. I'm pretty good at telling people no. It doesn't really bother me. I know some people that really struggle with, if they get pushed on enough, to sell something or whatever for enough money. Everybody has a price, unfortunately, unless you're somebody that, of course, not everybody.
Most
But
do. Most do.
yeah, yes, yeah. I mean, I have to live within my means to a point. But then again, you always have to acknowledge the fact that we are just people trying to survive every day. So,
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned the ridges around it. Is it a die cut?
the way I've always been, decal or perforated, are the
Mhm.
two terms I've heard it called. But yeah, I would call it sort of a die cut. It's kind of just a jagged edge all the way around. That's another thing that I really enjoy about it is a little different. Topps Pristine from around the early 2000s had some cards with it. I believe. trying to think. There's something else that it was a weird thing they did for just a little bit.
Yeah, I think 2018 Heritage has a decal
Yeah,
variation as well.
yes, yeah, yes. I believe it has been brought back out as well. I know that they did it a few times, but it's a very cool little touch to me, especially for the set. The one thing that another shout out to Zinc 42. I honestly can't even think of when we had this conversation, but he pointed out a long time ago that these specifically, the player are colored, but the backgrounds are solid gold. And the contrast of the color, I think, is part of what really gives the eye appeal of these. It's kind of different depending on the year with how they go about it. I'm sure, as you're aware. I think it's little things like that matter when you start talking about down the line. I'm very focused on imaging and whatnot.
Absolutely. So as we wind down here, I guess my last question for you would be: is when you acquired that last card and you've got the whole Yankees team set of 99 finest gold refractors, have you sort of imagined in your mind what it's going to look like when take the group picture or put them all in one spot and take a look at them, what that might feel like?
Yeah, I have. I think because of, like I said, it being so many cards, it already feels like, wow, I've kind of climbed the mountain here. But I will say, in a way, and anybody that really collects knows this, the chase is always the most fun part, I think. And it's actually been, as I'm winding down, somewhat a little disappointing. But I always find a way to kind of turn my sights to something else that interests me. But I try to, take my time and not rush anything. Something Danny, like I said, Moss card collection has brought up before is, being patient and waiting for things to fall into place. Because every now and again, some of these cards will come up on eBay with a bin price that's, more than my mortgage. And I just can't justify doing that, every month. So the patience and the finding a good deal and stuff is definitely the more fun part of it to me. But it definitely makes me, take my time and relish in the experience a little more. So.
And that way you enjoy it and you don't look back and resent any of the choices. You made, frugal, prudent choices with each step along the way.
100%, and especially I think anybody that enters this space should acknowledge what their goals are and how they need to get there. And I know that the space I'm in requires some coin for some things. So, me taking some time to buy this or that will help me buy the next one. I've been lucky in the last few years to knock down some really big cards, and I think it's solely because I've been selective of how I went about it. So,
Great. Well, Dalton at Refractor Guy 812, thanks for sharing your color collection and talking about the chase. And this is no easy feat. So congrats and thanks for your time.
oh yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you, and I hope we can talk again sometime.